Welcome back to Star Wars Battlefront 2, developed by the most loving company of all time, EA. So what do you think about the Battlefront community?
For yourself.
Even though the game was released in 2017, the game still costs $40 on Steam. Get your money up, not your funny up. And in this video, I'll go over each light side character, force myself to touch the grass, and commit absolute riz in every one of my matches. So without further ado, buckle up because you're in for a crazy voyage. Han Solo is my current main, and let me tell you, he is really fun to play with. He has a special skin which makes him young, which is cool, but makes his voice lines absolute cringe. No matter what you do, he will crack a dad joke.
Smooth sailing.
For those that don't know, he was a former D1 athlete because this man will tackle anything. An old grandpa? No problem. A 500-pound robot? Like a feather. Since enemies with lightsabers can deflect bullets, I used my trump card, and it is the explosive grenade. They may deflect bullets, but can they deflect the sound of freedom? And for you impatient players who can't bother aiming, don't worry because there's a solution. Sharpshooter will have a fire a bunch of blaster rounds that won't even bother getting in your crosshair. Now Chewbacca is a really interesting specimen. Whenever he talks, it's like he's choking on water, and for some reason it always looks like his eyes are edited to look dilated. But you don't want to mess with this bear because he will get angry and angrily chase you and stomp on the ground, causing massive shockwaves bigger than a fucking asteroid. He can also place these tasing nades that will cause your enemies to be stunned and violently shake. Maybe he put a vibrator up their ass, I don't know. Leia is one of Luke's victims, and trust me, she's an independent woman who will manhandle you at any moment. In my first match of playing as Leia, I literally died in the first 3 seconds. One of her skins makes her speak the language of the Aztec and makes her look like an indentured servant. She can place a Winston shield and throw a whole row of grenades that are enough to turn a happy family of 4 into literal dust. Luke, on the other hand, I had a hard time getting used to with. In every one of my matches, I kept breaking my record of the amount of deaths under 1 minute. His skill set involves spamming force abilities, and spamming force abilities. He's decent at best, but be ready to hear a whole counter-argumentative essay whenever he goes against Vader. He can push enemies away much like I do daily with females, and push people within a 3-meter circumference with his other ability. His saber ability allows him to do a spin attack that you can use twice, but couldn't be Lando because his skins allow him to get a whole facial. One of his abilities has him throw down a smoke that makes him disappear into the darkness, and by aiming you can use thermal vision much like Boss. His blaster ability turns him into McCree with his high noon, allowing for you to pinpoint shoot your enemies. And his final is a grenade that you can detonate in order to electrocute several enemies at once. Yoda, on the other hand, is the short midget kid who thinks he's a part of the blood gang, and you can abuse his height to your advantage. Looks like short people aren't useless after all. His saber ability allows him to land a hit no matter if your enemy is dodging it or not, and instead of blocking with his saber, he absorbs the energy and can release it all over his enemies. His final ability spreads out healing to his allies and himself.
Rey Skywalker.
While watching the movies, I couldn't understand a single thing she would say because of her accent, which is present in the games too. I literally wrote a whole rhetorical essay about it. The most common ability used is the brainwash ability that inverts your controls, and the amount of times I fell off a map is insane. If you try to run away though, Rey mains will use the charge ability where they try to give you back shots by charging at you. With her final ability, she begins sniffing for enemies and highlights them for you. Now Anakin is the drip kid. This is the most commonest fit I've seen ever since Destroy Lonely, and it looks like his mates have a lot more brain cells than Vader. His pull ability is basically the same as Kylo's, but he rubs his hands on his face, and combining this with heroic might makes him brain sword, and then release energy around his enemies. Hold it for longer and you'll deal stronger damage. And another ability you can combine this ability with is Passionate Strike, which isn't passionate at all, where he strikes his opponents with all his might, dealing significant damage. Now Anakin is the only character that has an ultimate ability that charges up, and using this he lifts all of his enemies, choking them much like his wife, and throws them away. Obi-Wan, on the other hand, made me feel like a god. His force ability can make him charge it up and throw enemies farther. If there is a phasma that won't stop running away from you, don't worry because you can use his rush ability that he can use to run and deflect the blasters at the same time. And if you are going against the Maul mains who just spam abilities, you can Sombra hack them with the mind trick that stops them from doing so. Now while trying to gather footage of Anakin and Obi-Wan, EA decided to sabotage me and made me crash not once, but twice. Great game.